friends, how are y'all doing? Today is Friday, June 9th, and I am back for my stitching update. It has been 2 weeks since my last one, so I hope you've been doing well. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. My name is Olivia, and this is Pumpkin Hollow Quilts. This is a YouTube channel where I typically talk about my cross stitching as well as my quilting. However, if quilting is not something you're interested in seeing or hearing, I show it a little bit later on in the video, and I'll let you know in plenty of time when they'll be making their appearance, so that way you can go on to the next Flosstube video. And if you are one of my amazing returning subscribers, welcome back. So how have you guys all been since we last sat down to chat? For me, the 2 weeks went by incredibly fast. There was a lot of stuff going on. I couldn't really tell you really anything specific. For the most part, we spent a lot of time working outside in the flower garden, and then I had, life errands and all that stuff. But I did find over these past 2 weeks that my stitching definitely suffered a little bit. Don't have quite as much to share in today's video as I hoped, but I do have a little bit of progress and a finish. For us here, we are a week away from summer vacation. So Ethan will be finishing up his junior year of high school next Thursday, and then Allison graduates from college next Saturday. So that'll be very fun, very bittersweet. We are super proud of her and cannot wait to see what she goes on to do. She hasn't quite decided yet what she wants to do, and that's okay. I know a lot of people keep asking her, and I have a feeling it's getting to the point where it's starting to aggravate her a little bit, and I feel kind of bad about that. I just tell them she'll figure it out when the time comes, but yes, we are very proud of her. So I think next week we probably have to make a couple of trips to her school to help empty out her dorm room, because she'll actually be staying there right up until graduation, because she does work on campus and there are events on campus that she has to work at. So she'll be staying there pretty much all the way until next Friday. I actually haven't seen her in a week and I miss her. Today's video, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. First little bit I'm going to talk about is a tiny little bit of housekeeping, the Etsy shop. So last fall, I had added some primitive items, some stuffed pumpkins, ghosts, and crows, and I had a lot of you guys reach out and ask if I was going to be adding those this year. And yes, I do plan on hopefully uploading those starting the first week of August. So look for them then. But thank you for reaching out. It meant so much to me that so many of you guys were interested in that little bit of prim decor. I also have a few new things that I will be adding. So definitely look for those starting, I hope, in August. And of course, I will let you know in my videos when it gets a little bit closer that they are being made. I'm hoping to start on those the end of this month. I also have been working to put project bags in the shop. Thank you to everybody who has purchased from me. It means so very much to me. I think I have, as of today, I have 5 left. And I actually ran out of sewing needles, so I'm waiting for those to come. And then, of course, I will get back to adding them into the shop. They go in slowly because I am a one-woman show, and I also have a lot of other stuff going on too. So I'm trying my best to get those put into my Etsy shop. And if you're interested, I'll put a link to the shop down below. So over the past 2 weeks, I haven't really been able to work on a whole lot of stuff. I feel like my cross-stitching time has really shrank. I am hoping as time goes by that I will be able to reclaim some of my previous stitching time. In my last video, I showed a finish. It was called Liberty House with Thy Needle and Thread. A lot of you guys are very curious about where you could find the pattern. And when I bought mine, I bought it from Brenda Gervais. She does have an online shop, and I always get it mixed up, but I think it's Country Stitches online. And I'll make sure to put a link down below. And if I've got that wrong, I will scroll the correct information in this area. So after I finish my last video, anytime I finish anything brand new, I will take it out to the pit of despair, and I have a magnet board, and I will put the piece, I will hang it by magnets on my magnet board. That way it's a constant reminder that I've got something that I need to get finished. And so it always stays right at the forefront. And when I stitch this, I stitch it with all of the called for threads on the called for linen. And the one thing I noticed was that the alphabet was really ghosting, especially showing it in the video, taking a photo of it. Now, when you stood looking down on it, you could see the alphabet just fine, but the more you step back, it would just fade away. And so I had it hanging on the magnet board, and every time I would go out into the pit of despair, I could see the house, I could see the tree, the bird, but I could not see the alphabet. And I realized that if I left it that way, even though I liked the fact that it was faded, looked like it had been in an attic for 160 years, I knew that maybe next month Olivia would not like it and would have wished she would have unpicked the alphabet and restitched it. So I restitched it. And I do have a frame made for it. I thought I was going to be able to get it in the frame and then have it finished in today's video, but unfortunately, I ran out of time. But here it is. And so I unpicked the alphabet. I worked on it over 2 nights, unpicked all the alphabet, restitched it in Weeks Dye Works Bark. And I like it so very much better. I'm glad I did, because again, I feel like I would have completely regretted not doing that. But there was a big part of me that liked that faded look of the original alphabet. Now I have decided going forward, because I am finding that as I'm working on some of these older charts, that the threads that they had originally used, the dye colors have changed. So what I've decided to do, because I stitch in bed, I've decided to put together a little baggie with brown, gray, and cream colored threads. That way, whenever I run into a problem where it's ghosting, I can quickly pull something darker and just have it ready to go. So love it so much better. And I have the frame, it's done. I just need to get this laced and put into it. So I will have it to show in my next video. I did stitch it on a piece of 40 count Confederate Grey, which was the called for threads, or the called for linen. I did use the called for threads, stitched it 1/2, and I swapped out whatever the gray was for the letters. I swapped it out for Weeks Dye Works Bark. I did have another finish, and that is the USA Forever stamp by the Fat Quarter Shop. Did have a couple people say that they were not able to find this, and so I went and I put it in the search engine on the Fat Quarter Shop's website, or the search bar at the Fat Quarter Shop, or on the Fat Quarter Shop's website, and I put in USA Forever stamp, and it came up. So I'm wondering in that video if I'd called it simply stamps, because there was, if I remember right, I feel like there was a series that was called Forever Simply Stamps or something like that. But it is the USA Forever stamp, and I will put a link to it down below in the description box if you're interested in stitching this. Stitched up really fast. I decided to, Kimberly of the Fat Quarter Shop is doing a stitch along the whole month of June. It is called the Red, White, and June SAL, but the hashtag is just Red, White, and June. But she is doing a stitch along where you basically just work on whatever patriotic chart you want to work on, and then just use her hashtag. So I decided to join in. I did purchase all of the supplies at the Fat Quarter Shop, but here is my finish. So I made a big boo-boo, and I posted about it on Instagram, and a lot of you guys said if I wouldn't have said anything, you wouldn't have known. And I know that, you know, you would not have known, but I always try to be honest about my finishing, and, you know, if I goof or make a mistake, I always want to kind of be honest about that. And what I did, I was in such a panic yesterday because I wanted to get content for today's video. And I was in a little bit of a panic because all I really had was what I had worked on, which there wasn't a lot. And I thought I need to get something finished. And so I started with this one, and I ironed it all out, and I was getting ready to cut it. And then the husband came out and he started talking to me. And whenever I am cutting linen away from the smalls, I always like to cut it 3/4 of an inch. So you have the stitching, and then I measure out 3/4 of an inch, and that's where I like to cut. and I only did a half. And after I got it done, I was looking at it and I thought, that does not look right. What did I do wrong? And I know I had saw that. I know I had it measured correctly and it was a half inch. And because I had cut it to a half inch, that meant that I only had a quarter of an inch all the way around, well, top and bottom to work with, because side to side I managed to do it correctly. So then I thought, what am I gonna do? I'm probably just gonna have to throw this away. I don't know how I'm gonna make it work, because originally I had another finish in mind for this that I couldn't do anymore. So we had to go run a really quick unexpected errand, and while we were on our way there and back, I thought, what if I make it into some sort of a little flag? So that's what I did. I am planning on kind of redoing my bathroom, or the guest bathroom, so that way it reflects the house. It doesn't right now, it looks like a hot eyesore. But I'm planning on redoing the bathroom, and the little shelf that I have that I'm going to put in there, this actually will work perfect. I'll be able to kind of like put it in at an angle and display it in there. So it worked out. I stitched USA Forever stamp on a piece of 36 count eggshell by Fiber on a Whim, and I used Gentle Arts Country Redwood, Weeks, Oscar, Navy, Peacoat, and Grits. And I will make sure to list that down below in the description box. But I finished it into a pillow. I used some red ticking. I had a little bit of white rickrack that I quickly dyed, and I hand stitched it to the pillow. And then I just added a little razzle dazzle to it. And I love it. Looks so good. So over the past 2 weeks, I continued working on Elizabeth Furniss 1836 by Hands Across the Sea samplers. And I am stitching this with Christy, Becky, and Yvette. And our assignment for June was to work on this big flower right here. So after I finished my USA Forever stamp, I keep wanting to call it Simply Stamp, USA Forever stamp, I went back to working on Elizabeth. And I got that much done of the flower. The flower is quite a beast. There's a lot of stitches in that flower, but it is spectacular when it's finished. So hopefully tonight I will be able to finish the leaves, and then tomorrow start working on the inside. But I love working on this so very much. And I'm stitching it on a piece of 40 count Bee's Knees by Seraphim Fabrics, and I am using DMC threads, and I'm stitching it 1/2. Had some questions about what this white tape is up here. It's Velcro. And when I originally started working on this, I had it in a scroll frame, but the scroll frame was a little bit too big to have it at my bedside. And so I took it out, and I've been working in a Q-snap. Eventually, I would love to get a stitching chair because it will be perfect with a stitching chair. So I just have to be patient. But here is my progress on Elizabeth, and I know I still haven't done any of the personalization up at the top, but I will get there. Over the past 2 weeks, I did work on Halloween at Hollyberry Farms. I've just kind of been picking this up here and there. Whenever I pick it up, I just focus on one motif and stitch it until it's done. So I worked on the big giant willow tree, and I got it done. I love this so very much. I really, really enjoy working on it. So I am stitching this on a piece of 18th Century Rook by R&R Reproductions, I believe. And I'm using the called for threads, and I'm stitching it 1/2. Had somebody ask me if you really do need all of the, I think it's carriage black. I think you have to have 3 skeins of carriage black. And yes, you do. I have already used 2, and I just have 1 full one left. But you use a lot of it. So Oh, I love this. I can't wait to get back to it. And again, I've just kind of, I figure if I go and I pick it up and I just stitch one motif and then move on to another project, I'm getting little bits done kind of in between larger projects. And then my last project is Spooky Countdown by the Primitive Hare. So this has been my morning stitch for a while now, since the beginning of the year. Yeah, since the beginning of the year. And I had to be honest, last month I felt like I was stitching backwards. I don't know why I felt like I was stitching so slow. I really just felt like I was either stitching backwards or I was stitching in slow motion. So I was able to finish May's assignment, which it ended with this block right here. And that was in the beginning of June. So now I have to do June's block. And I discovered that the moon block, the outline of it is one stitch over farther than it should be. But I don't really think you'll be able to tell because it's just back stitched. So I don't really think you'll be able to tell. But I definitely need to make sure I don't use that block as a reference point for the one below it. And I blame the fact that I'm having trouble seeing without wearing readers or my glasses. So I was able to continue working on this one, and I will continue working on it until I get June's blocks complete. So I have to do 4. And I started on the first one, which is a little cat wearing a witch's hat, and it says 23 up at the top. So I'm stitching Spooky Countdown on a piece of 36 count jack-o'-lantern by XJUDesigns, and I'm stitching it with the called for DMC. I love it. Love it, love it. It's coming along fabulously, or spooktastically, but I love it. In my last video, I did have a giveaway, and thank you so very much to everyone who played along. The question that I had asked was, how many hours a day do you cross stitch or quilt? And I really enjoyed reading through all of the lovely comments that you guys left. If I call your name as being one of the winners of the 5 prizes, what you will need to do is get a hold of me via email, and I will put my email information down below. Number 1 was for the Lady Claws cross stitch kit by the Fat Quarter Shop, or from the Fat Quarter Shop, and the winner is Linda King. Number 2 was for the Mill Hill Holiday 2, and the winner is Susan Spratling. Number 3 is for the Rockin' Around quilt pattern by It's So Emma, and the winner is Andy Otero, O-T-E-R-O. Sorry if I said your name wrong. Number 4 was for the And to All a Good Night by Stitching with the Housewives, and the winner is Carrie Dye. And number 5 was for the Merry Christmas chart by Blackbird Designs, and the winner is Teresa Gardina, Grdina. So congratulations to all the winners. Again, contact me via email, send me your address, and I'll get your prizes out in the mail to you. This video also has a giveaway, and what you will need to do to be eligible to win is make sure you're a subscriber, like the video, and answer the question down below. There are 5 prizes up for grabs, so you will just need to indicate somewhere in your comments 1 through 5 which items you are interested in winning, and in my next video I will announce the winners. Number 1 is for my copy of Liberty House. So this is a used chart. So it is Liberty House by With Thy Needle and Thread. Number 2 is for My Home Sweet Home, also by With Thy Needle and Thread. So if you're interested in this, it is number 2. Number 3 is Martha Evans 1879 by The Scarlet House. So if you're interested in winning this, it is number 3. Number 4 is for the entire pattern series of Block Bonanza. So I put this quilt together last year. So this is a used pattern, but still in great condition. So if you're interested in the Block Bonanza quilt pattern, this is number 4. And number 5 is for all of these quilt block foundation paper piecing quilt blocks. So it's Snail Trail, Log Cabin, Courthouse Steps, Pineapple, the Economy Block, and Sparkle Star. So if you're interested in winning all of these, it is number 5. So the question that you will need to answer down below is, and this comes from Chris U as the U flies, and her question is, what was the very first cross-stitch design you stitched? Or if you're a quilter, what was your first quilt? And thank you so much to Chris for providing today's giveaway question. Answer it down below, and in my next video, I will announce the winners. And thank you so very much for playing along. Okay, so I put everything away, and while I was out there, I thought I would grab the very first cross stitch that I ever stitched, and it is this little chicken. So I had been badgering my grandma. I was probably like 11 or 12. I'd been badgering my grandma to teach me how to do cross stitch because she always had the most beautiful cross stitch pieces she was working on. And she finally relented. I had been over there spending the night, so she finally said, okay. And she had this little kit. So it was the chicken, and then it had this little, it was like for an ornament. This is a magnet. So she had made it into a magnet, but she had this little kit. And apparently it took me like 2 or 3 months to stitch this. I guess it was very frustrating. She wanted to throttle me a couple of times. So I don't remember it like that, but that's what she says. And then I finally finished it. And as soon as I did, she finished it, fully finished it. And then she attached magnets to the back, and then it had been on her refrigerator all the way up until she had, I think I had just started doing these videos, and she gave it to me. So now I have it. But she had had it on her refrigerator for years. I think it was probably because it was like a badge of I taught her how to cross stitch and I didn't throttle her. But here it is. So now I have it, and I love that it's my very first cross stitch, and I get to keep it forever. As far as quilting goes, I don't have the very first quilt I ever made. I actually, it was a type of log cabin. It came from a Thimbleberries book, and I did it out of Mary Englebright fabric, and I ended up gifting it to my sister-in-law for Christmas that year that I had started quilting. It actually took me a while before I started keeping any of my own quilts. I ended up gifting a lot of them. But all I can really remember about it was the Mary Englebright fabric, and then it was from Thimbleberries. It was one of their books. It was one my grandma had. And so she had given me that to, that's what we had worked from, was that one to teach me how to quilt. I think it took me like 6 months to make the quilt, but I was pretty proud of myself that I had got it done. And I know she was pretty proud that, you know, she had taught me how to quilt. So it was a lot of fun. When I first started quilting, it was right before my grandpa had passed away. And then he passed away, and I think it took about a year before we picked it up again. So, but yeah, a lot of great memories quilting with my grandma. Well, my friends, as far as all the cross stitching goes, that is all I have to share and show in today's video. I'm going to start talking about quilting next, so if you're not interested in that, this is a great stopping off point. And as always, I will be back in 2 weeks. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below, and I will either answer them directly or answer them in my next video. Hope you have a great 2 weeks, but now, quilts. Okay, so let's talk about quilts. So the quilt that's hanging up behind me, I know I kind of failed to talk about it earlier on in the video. I try to leave the quilting stuff for the quilting section of the video. But the quilt hanging up behind me is called the Temecula Album Quilt, and it is by Temecula Quilt Company. Last I checked, you still can get the pattern, and I think it's available on Temecula's website. And if it is, I'll put a link to it down below. But I love this one so much. It's so wonderfully patriotic. There is a flag somewhere on the quilt, but I have a feeling it's like down back over here. but it's definitely like summer patriotic red, white, and blue, and I just love it so much. So the quilting segment of today's video is going to be a little sad. I only worked on one quilt, and it was totally not planned. Definitely got a wild hair and decided to make it. The that I worked on is from the book County Seat Quilts, and I keep wanting to call it country. I don't know why. I've had this book for a couple of years, and originally well, I think you can still get it. I'm not 100% sure, but it came from a quilt kit that's by JJ. Let me look it up here. JJ Stitches Quilt Shop. And they sell a lot of reproduction fabric. They have quilt kits that you can buy, and that's where I had originally saw this one. But here is what it looks like. So there's the Betsy Quilt. And let me see, that's what it looks like. So for a couple of years, you know, I'd seen it online. I'd had it in and out of a shopping cart, but I always hesitated to get it. And when I saw that they were coming out with a quilt book, and I saw that Betsy was one of the quilts in the book, I purchased it. The whole book is full of quilts that I would like to make. So the original quilt, let me get that information because I altered mine. The original quilt, when finished, is 63.5 by 63.5, and I basically made mine half that size. I want to say it is 50. I haven't measured it. What I'll do is when I get done with today's video, I will measure it and I will put it in the description box, because I had a lot of people ask me what the size of it was, and 100 times I meant to measure it, and I never got the chance, and then I would forget about it. But basically, I made mine half the size, and I used all Civil War reproduction fabrics from my stash. And here is what it looks like. So it goes into the quilt hanger that's across the room. So I have a wooden quilt hanger. And I think I am showing it upside down, right? Yes, this is the right way, sorry. So this is what it looks like. And I really, really, really love how it turned out. And a couple, what was it, last week or no, 2 weekends ago, I had posted a progress photo of Summer Breeze, and I had these blocks with it, and that is what I was making. So what I ended up doing is after I'd finished filming my last video, I got this wild hair to make it. I knew I was going to be changing out my decor. And also that same weekend, which was a long weekend, my dad was cutting down a bunch of his trees, and so it was all hands on deck. So in between doing all of that and being utterly exhausted, at night I would come in and I would work on like one block. But I was able to get all of the blocks assembled and finished, and I ran out, quilted it really quick. I just did a simple meandering, and now it has been on my wall ever since, and I love it. I'm so glad that I made the decision to go do it. Well, my friends, as far as everything goes, that is all I have to show and share in today's video. If you've stuck around for this length of time, thank you so very much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. If you would like to see what I'm up to in between my videos, you can find me on Instagram. I'm Pumpkin Hollow Quilts. Or I do have a Facebook page called Pumpkin Hollow Quilting, and I will put a link to both of those down below. Also in the description box, I will list everything I have shown today. So if you are at all curious about any of it, it will be listed down below. The plan for me, of course, will be to be back in 2 weeks. So I hope you have a good couple of weeks, and I will see you all again later. Bye-bye.